Hello everyone, back tuning into today's video. Going to cram a lot into today's video. We're looking at the stratosphere over the North Pole. We're looking at the Arctic Oscillation. We'll be looking at weather next week to 10 days as well. So a huge amount to get through. Before I get on with today's video, just say about the ads. There's links to articles on all the pages. If you have a browse visits and click through the links, you'll be helping us to pay the website. Thanks so much for doing that. Also to say about the Christmas shop. So it's open for business. It's got any Christmas shopping to do at Amazon between now and Christmas. Click the green button that says Christmas shop and it'll take to our Christmas page, and then from there you go through the Amazon banners to Amazon and you do Christmas shopping. Because you click from our website to theirs, we get a revenue thing on the things that you buy. So that'll be running right way through to Christmas. Thanks very much for doing that. And during Christmas later on this evening around 7 o'clock we will have the 7th Christmas update, so come back for that tonight. Right, let's have a look at the temperature at 10 HPA, which is the top level of the atmosphere over the North Pole. This is from the JMA. The grey line here is the trend line, and the black line is showing us what the temperature is doing in terms of the top level of the atmosphere over the North Pole. So you see that we are in a cooling time of year. Typically at this point of the year, the grey line trends down until it bottoms out around the end of December into January, and then starts to lift up through the late winter and into the spring. So temperatures will typically be at their coldest around Christmas, early New Year, and then it gradually starts to turn warmer in the latter part of winter and through into the spring. Now you can see from the black line that what's actually happened is that we have indeed been cooling the temperature, of course, because it is a cooling time of year, but we've been sticking very close to that grey trend line, really. So we haven't seen a big drop, big plunge in temperature yet over the North Pole, such as we've had in recent years. In recent years, we've been tending to do something a bit like that through November and December, turning it very cold over the stratosphere, in the stratosphere over North Pole. And those very cold temperatures have been helping to increase the jet stream, increase the zonal flow, and it's partly contributed, not total reason, but partly contributed to the very mild Atlantic-driven winters that we have had. Haven't seen a big drop in temperature yet, Ben, and actually the temperature just over the past few days has increased a bit. So this isn't a southern stratospheric warm, but it is a fairly warm temperature over the North Pole that we've got at the moment in terms of that top level of the atmosphere in the stratosphere. It probably ties in with the blocking that we've been seeing through November particularly. It's been very warm up over the Arctic in terms of the surface temperatures as well, and that's probably associated with the blocking highs that we've been seeing too. So the temperature at 10 HPA is fairly warm at the moment, and this is the GFS forecast for the stratospheric temperatures over North Pole over the next couple of weeks. So, of course, this is North Pole just here, and you see it's fairly cool. It's not warm, but it's warmer than you would expect at this time of year in terms of the stratospheric temperatures. The real cold temperatures are pushed down in towards the mid-latitude, interestingly, so perhaps that ties in partly with why we've seen such a cold early November across many northern parts of Europe. Let's see what's forecast to happen with these stratospheric temperatures. So if anything over the next week or so, we probably do start to cool things down a bit at 10 HPA over the North Pole. Not a plunge in temperature by any means, just dropping back towards the long-term average. Going into the extended range of the GFS, we keep those coolish temperatures over North Pole for a while, but as we go through to the end of November, this is at the extended range of the GFS, notice these yellow colours appearing around Siberia. And as we run through, they actually start to get closer towards the North Pole by the end of November. So it does imply that as we get through to the end of November, probably the start of December, we might see a stratospheric warming taking place around Siberia, and that might start to penetrate in towards the North Pole. Now, this isn't particularly extreme in terms of the warming. It's a fairly modest stratospheric warming, but it's very unusual to get that at this time of year because, as we've already established, normally this is a rapidly cooling time of year in the atmosphere over the North Pole. You tend to get warmings of the stratosphere later in the winter after Christmas through January, February and into March. So to be seeing this in November is quite unusual. Now, this isn't a southern stratospheric warming. A lot of people get confused about this when they see warming taking place in the North Pole, in the stratosphere. They assume that it's a sudden stratospheric warming. It isn't. This is what a sudden stratospheric warming looks like. It's a much more extreme event. This is from the start of January 2013, when you see the red colours there are penetrating into the pole. That's a sudden stratospheric warming. That's a dramatic increase in the temperature over a very short space of time. So this is a fairly modest warming. It's not a sudden stratospheric warming, but the point about it is that it's very unusual to see any kind of warming at this time of year, because as established, it's typically a cooling time of year. And this warming might mean that we're going to get something like this, a sudden stratospheric warming, a little bit earlier than normal. Maybe we'll get a sudden stratospheric warming some point in December. Have to wait and see on that one. But it is quite unusual to be seeing that level of warming pushing into the North Pole in November. We'll wait and see how that plays out. Remember, the idea behind sudden stratospheric warmings and stratospheric warmings is that it does translate back to an increased risk of blocking when the temperature goes up in the top levels of the atmosphere, eventually propagates down the troposphere and sets up high pressure, sets up blocking. Doesn't guarantee cold weather, because of where the blocking sits is the most important factor. And if one place is on the cold side of the block, another place is going to be on the mild side of the block. So it might be we get a sudden stratospheric warming at some point in December, and actually somewhere else gets cold and we are on the mild side of blocking. So never a guarantee with the weather in this country. Actually, without any stratospheric warmings, although we've established it is fairly mild in the stratosphere at the moment over North Pole, but we haven't really seen a dramatic warming, and without that we're doing quite well in terms of blocking, because the Arctic Oscillation observed and forecast chart shows us that since the start of October we've been generally negative with the Arctic Oscillation. It is picking up now. It's going into positive territory for a while this week. Looks like it'll be very positive. But you see from these red lines, which are individual ensemble members of the GFS ensembles, you see that the trend is very much down in towards the latter stages of November through here. It looks like we're trending back into negative territory again with the Arctic Oscillation. This is an index that's reflecting the state of the atmosphere over the North Pole. So when the Arctic Oscillation is negative, it tells you you've got blocking, you've got high pressure over the pole. And that's what we've had through much of October, through November as well. It looks like despite this shorter phase of positivity of the Arctic Oscillation, we'll be going negative again in the second half of the month. There really are some very negative ensemble members there, indicating lots and lots of blocking on some of these members of the GFS ensembles. So this is the GFS ensemble graph, which shows us the temperature in the upper atmosphere and also precipitation. The red line here is the 30-year temperature average. We're mild on average at the moment, associated with that change to the positive Arctic Oscillation, of course. Going to be going negative at the end of the week and into the weekend. We're going to be going colder, I should say. We're going to be pulling in cold air from the northwest at the end of the week and into the weekend. You start to feel that across Scotland tomorrow and Wednesday. In the south, by Thursday, we'll all be feeling a lot colder then. Start of next week looks like it's picking up the temperatures a bit, and then after that, probably going into a cooling trend again for the end of November. And of course, that's when the blocking is beginning to come back over North Pole. Precipitation shows quite a bit of rainfall coming up this week into weekend and the start of next week. After that, maybe going into a drying trend associated with this drop in the temperature. Temperature anomalies from the 14th, 22nd of November, a little bit milder than average for England and Wales, slightly cooler than average for Scotland. Not a great deviation, but certainly a milder period through this middle part of November compared to what we've had in the first half of the month. We was expected to get a milder phase through the middle period of November, and it certainly looks like we are getting that. The precipitation anomaly looks like this, near normal, a little bit drier than average in the east, a bit wetter than average in the west. Again, no great deviation over the coming week with temperatures and precipitation. This is how the GFS is looking for Friday then. We're pulling down colder air from the northwest again by then, following the isobars back, the areas originating from the north of Iceland heading to Greenland, so it will be cold. The saving grace, if you don't like cold weather, is that it's got a very long sea track through the Atlantic before it gets to us, so it will be moderated quite a lot. It's not like a direct hit from the Arctic, but nevertheless, it will be colder again at the end of the week, and there could certainly be wintry showers in the north, maybe snow coming down to low levels parts of Scotland. Cold weather stays with us into Saturday. Winds are easing off, so the risk to start the weekend will be some harsh night frosts, I would have thought. Still wintry showers in the north. Sunday starts off cold, probably very frosty, and then low pressure's out in the Atlantic. That starts to head in towards us later into Sunday, and by Monday, it's midnight Monday, we are back in a west-southwesterly flow. So probably a band of rain moves across the country on Sunday. That might turn to snow as it hits the cold air across Scotland and Northern England. We'll have to see on that, but it would turn back to rain as milder air pushes back in from the Atlantic Ocean. But it looks like going to quite an unsettled phase from the start of next week, so low pressure is close to the country, but winds are still from the south-southwest, so it's not cold, but showers along with spells of rain would be expected with that. What happens through the middle part of next week is that low pressure eventually just slips away to the south, so that by day 10, which is Thursday 24th of November, we're starting to build high pressure around Greenland and Iceland. That's the blocking beginning to come back, but we saw on that Arctic Oscillation forecast chart. And if we go a little bit beyond the 10th day, so we go up to Friday 25th of November, and then on in Saturday 26th of November, see we're properly pulling down Arctic winds then. The wind goes into the north, even into the northeast, up really cold air coming out of Scandinavia. That will be bringing a cold end to November, and no doubt there will be snow for northern and eastern parts of the country with that. Might not turn out as that is suggested, because it is in the extended range of the GFS. It is in the extended range of the GFS ensembles and the GFS operational run, but it seems to be quite well supported this morning from those GFS ensembles. ECMWF is looking like this, so start of the end of next week, end of this week I should say, has the winds in from northwest, looks cold and showery. That continues into Saturday. Sunday brings that low pressure in from the Atlantic quicker than the GFS is doing, and that brings a lot of heavy rain and possibly gale force winds in from west as well. I think that's probably developing that area of low pressure a little bit too much. It's probably overdeveloping it, but would be quite a battering that we take there in the second half of the coming weekend. Into next weekend, it stays unsettled. What's happening is that the low pressure is slipping away to the south again, so agreement with the GFS on that. We go up towards day 10, which is Thursday 24th of November, and we find high pressure is out to the north and west, a blocking feature. Looks like it's turning things cold with the winds going into the east, but low pressure is becoming cut off down to the south. That isn't quite northern blocking at that point, but if it's run on a day or two more, we will probably see this high pressure beginning to shift up towards Greenland and Iceland, I would have thought, bringing down proper Arctic winds. So it looks like both the models are trending towards colder solutions for that final week of November. And then finally, just having a look at the CFS 700 millibar height anomaly for December. You remember a couple of weeks ago this was showing quite a mild Atlantic driven December, but it really has shifted now, and it's showing a lot of blocking for December now in terms of its height anomaly. Blocking centred around Greenland and Iceland. Low pressure is to the south around Spain and Portugal, and that would bring the winds in from the east and the north. That would be a cold December, early taste of winter there with that one if it came off. It's a huge shift on what the CFS was showing just a couple of weeks ago. It just does show you how quickly this model can change. But that looks like a really cold month now being predicted by the CFS V2 model. And talking of the CFS V2, we'll be having a look at its latest ideas for Christmas with the 7th update on the Christmas updates page tonight. So, for the next 10 days anyway, it looks like we are, well, we're definitely in a milder phase now. It looks like we're turning colder in the second half of the coming week. It's just start weekend, also quite cold. Later in the weekend probably turns milder, wetter. Early part of next week looks generally quite mild and unsettled. And then after that, for the final week of November, week a bit more of November, we probably have to start thinking about blocking returning, bringing winds back into the north, possibly giving us a cold end to the month, and that could go on into December. Right, come back later on for Christmas update. That's all for now. Thanks for watching.